Welcome to the Building Web3 podcast. Today, I have my good friend Gabo. He is the founder of UglyCash. Now, for people that are unfamiliar with what UglyCash is, tell them a little bit about what you're building.
So on UglyCash, the way that we describe it is the opportunity app. The app where you can manage, move, and grow money. Basically, the goal is to have all financial services equally available for all people around the world. So we unlock for them more opportunities because they have the tools in order for to grow in equal ways around the world. So that's basically what we're doing. We put the tech behind the purpose and focus on the purpose and put together everything that is needed in order to get to that goal.
Yeah, absolutely. So talk to us a little bit about like who is the current customer who's using UglyCash the most right now.
So at first we have focused on Latin America, particularly Central and South America. We're excluding currently Venezuela and Brazil. Most of the users that are using us today are using us because, number one, they're freelancers, internet contractors, people already being paid on stablecoins, so we help them live local as well. People in some countries, they find restrictions whenever that they're trying to spend their money abroad. So they get into UglyCash as well. So they are able to spend their money abroad more easily as well. Some people in some countries in Latin America, we have like a PTSD of banking, particularly on Latin America. People is afraid sometimes that their banks are gonna not allow them, not even shut down, but not allow them to withdraw their money. So some people rather prefer a US-based financial institution for them to store their money as well. And like lastly, what we kind of like, because our goal is to offer all the tools, all financial services into one particular app. We have started seeing more and more into investment, which is part of the big update that we just did recently as well, to amplify more all of that area. People seeking for more investment opportunities. What we noticed as well is that many people were funding their account already, coming from interactive brokers or DeFi trading pools or Binance or so on. Like Latin Americans don't have the same options or tools that people in the US or in other more privileged areas of the world have. So like, I think that Latin Americans are experts on alternative investment routes. I think one of the beauties of what is happening with tokenization is that is now bridging not only those alternative routes and make them accessible that they have been for a while, but they weren't so friendly before. But now it's also bringing the more traditional finance investment options, making it accessible for the regular people. So we package all of that together, and we make it in a way that is very friendly. Is focused on the youth, on the young generations, in order for them to interact and have social interactions with it. So that is basically how UglyCash has been used. Nowadays, we just hit 30,000 active customers, monthly active customers. We have over 200,000 already users, but from those that are active, and they're well spread across the region. So we have from Salvador, Ecuador, Paraguay, Bolivia, Honduras, Guatemala. Is quite a spread. And there is a lot of social share precisely from the people, because when you do a service in a way that solves a real problem, it's the same people that ends up recommending you at the same time.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about stablecoin adoption in Latin America because I know a lot of listeners will be in like New York and Dubai, and even though I've lived in Latin America a very long time, I don't think people have as good of a grasp of the on the ground reality. So talk to them a little bit. Like, let's say I'm like a Rappi driver or I'm doing some kind of freelance work. Is it common to get remittances in stablecoins, or is it common that U.S. or people abroad are paying in stablecoins? Like, where are the stablecoins typically coming into play?
Yeah, I want to start by just mystifying some of the notional concepts that people here in the US have about stablecoins adoption on the context of Latin America. Like many people believe, oh, so people is using stablecoins to hedge inflation because people on hyperinflationary countries. So the use case is for hyperinflationary countries. So yes, there is that particular use case on areas that have a high inflation, like in the aspect of Venezuela has been, or Argentina more particularly in the past. But you can see a high degree of stablecoin adoption as well on dollarized countries, just like Ecuador or Salvador. There are other reasons behind it. So then you will say, so clearly it must be because of remittances, right? And actually, my answer is not necessarily. And actually, not most likely. And let me explain you why. The who is usually the person that is receiving the remittance? Who is usually the person that is sending the remittance from the context of the US? Usually, the remittance senders, the average age is 35 years older, and the receiver as well. So this is actually not the most likely user base to adopt any kind of new financial application, no matter technology, no matter technology. And yes, you can adapt technology to serve the underserved or the underbanked, but like when we're talking about Latin America, and the segments or the areas that receive the most remittances, usually you're talking with areas or segments that lack education, financial literacy, people sometimes that they can barely read, people that you present them something new and they're just afraid of it. They just rather go to the same corner store and talk with the same person that they have talked their whole life, that they know them, and that is gonna give them the money. And this is the reality today. Of course, that demographic is going to be changing over time, and which is why we took the focus of saying, hey, we're actually going to focus on the younger generations. That's why we went into a UglyCash name that is like aiming to the Gen Zs or young millennials. That the people that is getting or using stablecoins are, number one, because there's many creators, many influencers, many people working over the internet, many virtual assistants. Depending on the region of Latin America, for example, in Central America, it's more common to find virtual assistant jobs or things like that. And Argentina has a very well developed tech ecosystem, so you find a lot of like engineers and product designers and so on. But the use case basically is people working abroad. And I think that the big explosion from this actually came right around COVID, when remote work kind of like started to become more of a thing with all the tools as well available. And not because remittance weren't occurring before, remittance were happening before, but these people that is more, okay, how I'm gonna like get my money, right? But if you're like 25, 27, 22, you're gonna like try to figure out, and then you get it into stablecoin, you get it then, and people will do some kind of like crazy loops in order to get it. They will get it into Binance, then they will send it to Binance peer-to-peer, then they need to talk with a merchant to sell the stablecoin to get into their account. It's like very, very crazy. And that is where primarily the adoption is coming from. And nowadays, like because of the goal and what the infrastructure development that has happened, that have made basically stablecoins to be used as basically dollars in a bank account when you can like swipe your card and it goes and it's processed basically as a debit card, then it's reaching segments that are not necessarily the global the global entrepreneurs or global workers, but reaching segments where well, I don't trust my local bank account because they can block my money how they have done it in the past. I would rather have it in an offshore financial account that was the option only available for the rich in the past. Because this is what I'm telling you is something that any Latin American will tell you. How did the rich held their money in the past in their countries? Well, they go to Panama and open their bank account in Panama. They go to the US, open their bank account in the US or in Europe, because they're afraid. People is afraid. People don't trust. Just as many people don't trust their local governments, and many people don't trust also their local banks, especially on Latin America. So there is also this particular segment as well that I say, hey, and maybe not 100%, but I'm gonna keep some of my savings right here, and maybe myself, I couldn't go to the US and open a US bank account. Now it's even way more difficult to do that. Now I can do it just right here so easily. And then I can transfer it to my bank account or can transfer to anybody in the US or Europe, can travel and use my card. Many people use it precisely in that way and then on-ramp directly from their local economies to the offshore financial account, basically.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about growing this app because obviously you guys probably prioritized initially Latin America. How did you get the initial adoption for the app?
So we focused at first in Salvador. That was our first market. One of the core reasons to focus on and which is funny because it's dollarized, right? So in Salvador there are dollars, and so there is no inflation coming over here. But El Salvador has a very clear regulatory environment, so we were able to license directly in El Salvador. In many countries in Latin America, this is not as clear as it is in El Salvador. And when we went to market in El Salvador, we went initially with that idea, of course, remittances. El Salvador is one of the biggest remittance receivers on Latin America. They're coming mostly from California. We are here based in California as well. We saturate that market and the remittances are going to come. That is where all these learnings that then I was sharing you before. But what was surprising then to see was that the first adopters were actually not the remittance receivers. These were actually one of the most challenging, but actually were the people earning money over the internet or working globally. So that was kind of like the same reason. And when I noticed that, there was like, okay, so this is a segment. This is the initial segment. This segment faces the same challenges all across Latin America. So we applied the same playbook then for the rest of Latin America. And well, we last year, by January last year, we just barely had 100 active users, and we have grown all of this in just 1 year. However, as a project, we have like almost 6 years building. We focused at first in Venezuela. We had a different model in Venezuela. It was purely focused on hyperinflation. We had to wind down that operation in order to integrate with the international platforms because of targeted sanctions that have with Venezuela. If you work there, it's very difficult to integrate with other partners. So that's the how we went to market there. And just like on every startup, you start with an idea and with a notion. You have like many potential cards around that. Yes, you have theorized it, but then once that you get to the market and you're learning, you expand then from it.
Yeah, so you had that one core segment of users, and then how specifically did you guys scale there? Was it just calling up the users and being like, "Hey, what do you like specifically about that?" Some kind of referral fee system?
No, like so we tried at like the very first thing we did is we had a snowball go to market. So the idea was for every person on the team to try to get 3 customers. Just that. So, and we will literally call people, like search over the internet, find friends who will connect us to friends, and so on, to start having those initial conversations. That was our initial pace. After that, and we were able to onboard a few of the users, we gather feedback. What they like, what will they use? We try to onboard many remittances, both from the sender point of view, from the receiver point of view as well. We had, so this is the resistance. There's a lot of resistance here. On these areas, there is way less resistance, because it's not, it doesn't solve a problem. The thing is, what is the area of less resistance? That is what, that is where I need to go. You need to have the eyesight there. So by onboarding this initial cohort of users, we had some initial notions. And then our way to better test these value propositions is literally TikTok. TikTok is extremely powerful to test different values or positioning components, because it's algorithmic driven. Of course, you need to do it from the geo-specific area. We got a few UGCs directly on area, and we started posting over 2-3 weeks different positionings, different pieces. And as soon as we saw the first spike, the spike of views, this is it. And not only you see the spike of views, you see the spikes of comments, what is people commenting and people coming in, and that is a little bit. So in a way, I call it it's almost like fishing. When you don't know precisely where to fish, you need to hear first. Go to this area of the ocean, and then you go to that area. You put different nets in different areas. One gets the thing. This is where is a pool, and then you keep fishing on that.
Yeah, so for people listening, a good example is, and this is really how mobile marketing is working these days, is you'll get 5 to 10 UGC creators. You're going to have them test multiple different hooks. You'll look at specifically what people are commenting, like, hey, what app is that? Oh, I need this for that. Maybe there's a specific use case we hadn't thought of, or maybe everyone's commenting this one particular use case, and we're like, okay, perfect. Now we can pivot the market direction to have that marketing message. And then if you want to go hire a KOL, or you want to hire an influencer, then you have at least the defined marketing message that's worked across a bunch of UGC creators. Yeah, I'm quite curious in that UGC approach, because I think most people in crypto don't know about it. I'm actually surprised. It seems like only Polymarket, FOMO, you guys are doing it.
Yes. So it has their advantages, but also the disadvantages at the same time. Like I mentioned, the advantages is that you can try very quickly different positionings, different hooks. You can even try features that you don't have yet, just to see if the market is going to have a reaction for that. It's a beautiful way to test different things. However, you can get viral. You cannot be viral all the time, especially when you are like talking about a product or talking about a brand. Maybe you hear a new brand, that brand, start popping everywhere. It depreciates over time. So it is the challenge of this particular tactic is that you need to let it rest for some time, and then you can come back with different hook and different. But on a scalability, it has scaling issues that are related to basically how social media works. Imagine if you are like browsing on your feed, because you always need to see from the customer point of view, and you're ongoing seeing the same company for 6 months. They're like at the month number 2 that you see the same thing, you're just gonna I don't want to see it anymore. And that's what happens, that the algorithm stops showing you then they're less. So a good tactic that we have used is combining this with paid media. So you find what is working in UGC. You amplify that then with influencers. Influencers helps and setting a footprint. Basically, that is almost like you can think of it as like in the old days as SEO, where you needed authority pages to link to your website. In a way, what influencers do is that then they will talk about the thing, because what happens then with UGC, this is the flow. What happens is that the user see a person talking about it, then they will search on TikTok to see who else have talked about it. And of course, because we all know that UGC works, but then if you see, okay, but my influencer or however, this guy that is respected talking about the thing and he seems like, legit. Okay, let me just go and then download the app. Or the other option that they do is then they go on a further step, some users, and then Google it. And then you have an attribution issue, because sometimes it's hard then to know where it's coming from. Okay, you got hit by the UGC, the influencer served you there. But that is the mix of tactics that then you are learning, but you learn these pieces through execution, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it's very powerful when you combine all of this.
And that's what we're seeing going a lot. I mean, I know some of the internal budgets at some of the major companies, and they're spending a ton on UGC. So it's, just as you described, it's, hey, launch a UGC campaign, see which hooks are working, then get actual like big influencers to amplify that message. And then also you can even go for certain companies, paid media, where certain prediction markets are allowed to even run ads, as an example.
Yeah, exactly.
So talk to us a little bit about the idea of moving towards trading.
So I'm not moving, but just adding.
Yeah.
Because the idea is that people have all the tools in just one place and in an equal way. So, but also there is a big strategic area that ultimately the winners of the global stablecoin, global financial services race, the winners of that are going to be the ones that have a better LTV to CAC ratio on that. So when you focus only on payments, unless you are able to become something like a Stripe, something directly.
Well, one second. So for people that are listening that don't understand, LTV is lifetime value of the customer. So how much money a customer will spend with you over time, and CAC is the cost to acquire a customer. I just don't think many people are going to catch that.
Yeah. So the thing is that the payments margins are actually not that high. And the FX margins, because there is a lot of competition as well coming into the market. There is not anymore a regulatory broker for global financial services that are very hard to get, or for the financial services, a team basically of 5 people can launch nowadays an equivalent to Wise in just a matter of a few weeks. It's that simple to offer this thing. So that competition, that level of competition is good for the consumer, but ultimately as a business, who are the businesses that are going to remain afloat with all of this huge competition? So the business in one end with the biggest pocket, the businesses also with the better LTV to CAC component. So you need to think further as a global financial service provider, how you can increase your monetization. And for us is, how do we increase monetization without being extractive? Okay, how do we get our business goal, and while at the same time providing more opportunities precisely for people, because that for us is our North Star. So that is why we combine the investment and trade area with social discovery tools, with community insights, with leaderboards that shows you who is doing it in the best way, so you can follow precisely what they're doing. But at the same time, the assets, and we have 48 hours that we just launched these features. But the assets that we promote, the assets that we put in the first plane, and what users are buying the most right now is precisely what are not accessible usually for them. So tokenized stocks, tokenized ETF. People is just, so this guy is buying Coinbase stock right now. So Coinbase tokenized stock right now. So people start buying buying it that way. You can see by the outcome. So that was the idea. So it has the business reasoning, and I think that, and we saw it yesterday with announcement of also of the raise of Dollar App that they raised recently their Series B. They are moving as well, focusing more in the investment area and private credit area. That is precisely the other area that we're gonna be looking to add for the customers. Those are the businesses. From the point of view from the businesses, we are just trying to increase our monetization while providing more tools, especially on the markets where those tools haven't been accessible. Because when you look at it only from a US perspective, it's like, okay, to me that can work for meme coin trading, or for crypto, or for maybe even prediction markets. But for a huge segment of the world, they haven't had the easiness to access these tools. But we are combining that easiness, not only that access, but also what in Web3, what in crypto we have done, what tactics have we done that can also be applied because it's coming from the same blockchain to trade more of these traditional assets and make that experience more engaging and with better outcomes precisely for the people that now have an easy access to them.
All right. So to summarize for people, it seems like, was it last year you guys were at 1,000 users and now you're at 30,000 users via the TikTok and amplification strategy?
Yeah. So active.
Active.
Yes.
Monthly active users.
We launched it in October, November 2024. So we basically were at 0 at that point, and now we are at 30,000 active today. We have way more. One of the issues.
That's monthly active?
Yes, monthly active.
Wow.
One of the issues with this tactic, I didn't mention, with a UGC tactic or when you become viral, is that you will have many people coming into your app that are not necessarily going to activate. So we had a low activation issue that also. One of the other reasons that we had, this is a problem that we are like ongoing solving and addressing, is that we didn't have local ramps. We haven't had local ramps in most of the markets in Latin America. Only one country have local ramps, that is Mexico so far, but that is being solved right now in March. So many people came into the app wanting to use the app, but they couldn't fund the account. So who was the people that could fund account? Well, the people that were earning money abroad or over the internet. So that punished the activation quite low. It's like a shotgun strategy as well.
Just so I understand. So, okay, so we're going viral on TikTok and people in Mexico are like, perfect, my bank, I can do whatever the equivalent of Apple Pay is. But let's say it's in Colombia. People are like, oh, crap, this doesn't hook up to Banco Colombia. And therefore, there was a low activation because even though it's crypto, we still need some of the banking on-ramps in order to exist. That makes sense.
That's correct. You although get the data, you although get the intent, now that serves you to prioritize. Okay, this customer wanted in that way. You still initial customers from the segment that you were trying to target to, but it has those issues. Local ramps actually we have is Bolivia and Mexico right now, but we're soon about to have it in Ecuador, Colombia, and Peru this month.
Wow, that's super exciting. Okay, so you guys did the influencer strategy. You had some user issues because of the on ramping, but hey, that's the startup lifestyle. And then you're trying to increase the LTV by adding access to trading so that people can have access to different kind of financial instruments that they weren't able historically to get access to. So that, I mean, one, this is an amazing story. I love this. Talk to us a little bit about, because you were talking about, hey, that nowadays a lot of people can copy the functionality of Wise. Talk to us about when software becomes so much cheaper to develop. What is the moat that keeps people around and keeps that high LTV?
Yeah, like this is one of the most common topics. I'm always talking with investors about it. In our case, my prediction on the stablecoin space and global financial services space is that everything is going to be commoditized. All the financial services are going to be commoditized because of the infra development, because of the compounding and composability effects on the blockchain. So you cannot differentiate truly by the services that you're offering. So that is one particular point. And at the other point is the cost of software is also decreasing exponentially over time. We have a quarter of our engineering side that we had back in 2022 when we were serving Venezuela, and we go 10 times faster, and just because of AI. Like, especially there were some exponential improvements happening in December that have increased the ability to deploy software, and what our engineering team and my co-founder he predicts in a year and a half is almost going to be like automatically on that. So the ability to replicate software and to offer all global financial services, and there is not a regulatory blocker when you are like dealing directly on chain to be able to offer that. How do you get at defensibility point? Predicting that future, we had two components in our strategy. Number one, that is the most visible today, because this is something from, we actually, before we were named the Reserve app, we rebranded from being the Reserve app to be UglyCash, because we said, okay, so brand is going to be one of these areas that is just going to be hard to replicate. And not only because of the word of brand and storytelling, they're like almost like cliches nowadays. Everybody's like repeating, but this is something that you don't build just like that. It takes time. It takes lore. It takes authenticity that you can like detect. And this is we wanted to distinguish not only with a catchy name, but it's a whole brand experience of what you come and experience directly on UglyCash, from the design, the product design, the kind of services, how you send money in a sobrecito as well. That is how your grandma send you money. So we wanted to do a whole experience, knowing that our target customer were not the boomers, but were the younger generation. So we did something on purpose that many people will hate, that many people will think that was wrong, but that the people that will be part of it will feel proud and will feel cool. Kind of like a little bit of Dadaism or the Shams. So that was an inspiration, and we observe from the world and highly commoditized areas like waters or energy drinks on how they do it. Particularly, we got a lot of inspiration from Liquid Death on a highly commoditized area. How do you distinguish yourself in a highly commoditized where everybody can offer exactly the same that you're doing?
Another thing that I like about this strategy is nobody's going to forget the name UglyCash. This is why we called our brand Cult Media. We have another friend in this space that has an agency called Bad Marketing. It's like, you want these names. The same with Liquid Death. You want these names where you're like, whoa, it's shocking.
Yes, absolutely. And but the name cannot be just by itself. It needs to be a whole experience when you are like, okay, and then you say, okay, I like this, because especially when you're doing a tactic like that, and when you're thinking, okay, I'm dealing with money, Okay, I'm dealing with money. I'm gonna use this software. I'm gonna use this app to handle money. You need trust. So it's all about trust. The only way to develop that trust with a shocking brand name is executing in a very high level and to provide a whole experience that people can say, aha, I get you. And then we combine that with also a slogan that is your bank won't do this. When you read it, when you look at the app, you see the name and you see the kind of service, your mind is telling you, I got it. And you feel like, okay, I get where you're going. And that is when you build that trust aspect. It's like many high-end streetwear fashion brands as well that has a lot of inspiration from that. The other defensible mode is the social graph. Like definitely is one of those things that are very, very hard to replicate as well. That is was one of our original objective. How do we develop a whole social layer where particularly emerging markets are very communal focused? You have a lot of trust, not on only other people telling you, but on your own community or on the people that you are like interacting with. And that is what we added precisely with the part of the update that we did in portfolio. Okay, how do we make the financial transactions as the primitive for people to engage with each other? Because this was something that was already happening, and at the we had a WhatsApp groups for each one of the countries, so people were already interacting and talking about what to trade, what to do. So we wanted to have that experience completely embedded into the app, because that's the other, to me, one of the future defensible modes is the social graph that you can have. That is very hard also to potentially replicate. So those are our two strategies that we have right now.
Well, I got to say, it's super exciting. And I love talking with you because I love the strategies you're implementing. Where can people learn more about UglyCash? Where can they connect with you online?
So on the website, ugly.cash, my personal handle is a stablecoin app in X. On X for UglyCash is as well at UglyCash. And also our YouTube channel at UglyCash is like we're making long format videos as well, so people can follow the what is happening as well with the team, and of course within UglyCash as well. So now within UglyCash we have the communities. You can join what we call the UglyCash houses. That is the communities where the team is. There are different communities by different regions, and that's right there my priority to answer any questions that come around that direction.
Absolutely. Well, everyone, I'll put down all the links in the bio, but I think this is a very exciting episode and I'm looking forward to the next one.